When the people you love most believe you are strong enough to survive without them, their absence becomes the sharpest scalpel, cutting deeper than any surgeon could ever reach. I woke to silence, not the soft, gentle kind that wraps around you like a blanket, but the hollow, echoing silence that tells you something in your life has shifted, and not in a way you asked for. The kitchen was dim, the early winter light filtering through the curtains like a hesitant apology. And there it was. A single white envelope leaning against my ceramic teapot, the one my daughter Mia had painted when she was 6. The handwriting on the envelope was neat, careful, unmistakable. Caleb. My son. My only child left nearby. The one who promised he would be with me today. My hands shook before I even touched the paper. Mom, it began. Mom, Lorraine has always dreamed of visiting Florence, and this may be her last chance to travel. You are strong. You always figure things out. Dr. Hayes said the procedure is routine. You will be fine. We will call when we get back. Love, Caleb. The words were sharp, but the space between them was sharper. Routine. You will be fine. You always figure things out. I sank into the kitchen chair as though my bones had suddenly doubled in weight. My coffee sat untouched, steam fading into nothing. For a long moment, the world held still, waiting to see if I would shatter. Today was the day of my open-heart surgery, the surgery I had whispered fears about in the dark. The surgery that could gift me 15 more years of breath and laughter, or take everything away. And my son, my dependable, earnest Caleb, was somewhere over the Atlantic, chasing his mother-in-law's dream trip. My heart stuttered beneath its failing valve. 6 months earlier, I had sat in Dr. Hayes' office while he delivered the news with the kind of careful tone doctors use when the next words may unspool the rest of your life. Without surgery, he said, you have maybe 6 months. With it, you could have 15 good years. 6 months versus 15 years. A gamble with stakes higher than anything I had ever faced. I remember clutching my purse until my knuckles turned white. I remember calling Caleb from the parking lot, my breath fogging in the cold air, my voice smaller than it had ever felt. Sweetheart. I am scared. There was a pause. A soft inhalation. Then, Mom, I will be there. I promise. You will not go through this alone, and I had believed him. Because mothers always want to believe their children mean what they say, but promises, I was learning, were delicate things, easily broken by strong winds and Florence-bound flights. My phone rang, jolting me from the days. Maggie? Only one person still used my old nickname, Nina Torres. My closest friend for nearly 50 years. We met as terrified young nurses at St. Jude Hospital, clutching coffee cups and courage in equal measure. She had retired before I did but kept the same fiery spirit that made residents and surgeons alike fear disappointing her. I am on my way, she said briskly. Be ready in 40 minutes. Do you want a bagel? I can swing by, Nina, I whispered. Caleb is not coming. There was silence. Then a sharp inhale. What do you mean, not coming? He left a note. He flew to Florence with Lorraine last night. On the other end of the line, something crackled, not static, but anger. Maggie, do not you dare defend him. Do not you dare, Nina said, each word clipped with fury. What kind of son abandons his mother before open-heart surgery? For a vacation? I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words dried on my tongue. Defending him felt impossible. Condemning him felt like dragging nails across my own skin. He said the surgery is routine, I murmured. Routine? Are you routine? Her voice rose a full octave. Aortic valve replacement is not routine like getting your nails done. You need someone there who loves you. Someone who knows what questions to ask. Someone who, oh, I swear to God, if he were in front of me right now, I closed my eyes, letting the anger wash over me. Not mine, but hers, fierce, protective, loyal. Everything I wished my son had been in this moment. When did I become expendable? The whisper escaped before I could cage it. You did not, Nina said fiercely. But he started acting like you were. And now he is going to learn otherwise. After we hung up, I moved through my apartment like a ghost drifting through old memories. Photographs lined the hall, My life in small rectangular chapters. Caleb at 7, smiling with 2 missing front teeth after I worked double shifts to afford his piano lessons. Caleb at 16, awkward in his prom tuxedo, me fussing over the hem. Caleb at 24, beaming with his new wife Claire by his side. Claire, who had died unexpectedly 3 years later, leaving me and Caleb both hollowed out in different ways. Then came Lorraine, Claire's mother, who had stepped in to help and somehow ended up absorbing more of Caleb's time, attention, even affection, than I ever imagined possible. I lingered on the wedding photo. I had paid for the catering with overtime shifts. I had sewn Claire's veil by hand. I had scrubbed floors at the nurses' station when budgets were tight. Sacrifice had been my second language, but somewhere along the years, my sacrifices had stopped being love and started being expectations. I picked up Caleb's letter again. The word Florence glared back at me. As if I had never dreamed of anything. As if my dreams stopped matching when his began. My chest tightened, not the medical kind of tightness, but the emotional kind that no valve replacement could fix. But Caleb did not know the entire truth. Not yet. 2 weeks earlier, unable to sleep, I had seen an ad for a show called Healing Hands, hosted by world-renowned cardiothoracic surgeon Dr. Adrian Voss. They featured deserving candidates whose medical crises were transformed through innovative surgeries and national support. I applied on a whim. I wrote about decades of serving others. About the countless nights I held patients' hands while they trembled. About my son. About being tired, not of living, but of living unseen. I never expected to hear back, but 3 days later, I received a call. Mrs. Hale, the young woman had said. Dr. Voss reviewed your application personally. He wants to perform your surgery. You have been chosen as our next featured patient. I had agreed. Quietly. Gratefully. Astonished, and now, standing alone in my kitchen with Caleb's letter trembling in my hand, something inside me shifted, something fragile but fierce. He thinks I will be fine without him, I thought. He thinks my life is small. Ordinary. Predictable. He has no idea, because in a few hours, while he strolls cobblestone streets in Florence, I will step into an operating room filled with cameras, lights, and the most celebrated heart surgeon in the country. Today, the world will see me, even if my own son did not. And somewhere deep in my wounded heart, a spark caught fire. A spark that whispered, this time, the story will be mine. Nina arrived exactly 40 minutes later, just as she promised, her little cobalt blue hatchback rattling like it had opinions about the winter roads. She marched through my front door without knocking, her short silver hair pinned back like armor, and her coat draped over her arm as if she were preparing for battle. Maggie, she said, voice sharp as a scalpel, show me the note. Wordlessly, I handed it to her. I watched her eyes skim the words, her jaw tightening, her nostrils flaring. Classic Nina, the same expression she once wore right before she chewed out a cardiology resident for leaving a post-op patient without supervision. She lowered the paper slowly. I swear, she muttered, if that boy were not your son, I would wring him like a dish towel. A shaky laugh rose from my throat, unexpected and fragile. Maggie, she added more softly, you deserve better than this. The sentence slipped under my ribs like truth finally finding a place to rest. I nodded, blinking quickly. We should go. They need me at the hospital by 8. Nina took my small overnight bag, the one with a change of clothes, a toothbrush, and a paperback novel I probably would not be awake long enough to read. Then she placed her free hand on my shoulder. I will be right next to you, she said. And I am staying until you are out of recovery. Nobody is abandoning you today. The words were simple. But my heart, faulty valve and all, squeezed with gratitude. The drive to Rivergate Medical Center took nearly an hour through pale morning sunlight and slow-moving traffic. I stared through the window at the city I had lived in for more than 4 decades, brick apartment buildings, corner cafes still dark, early commuters bundled like penguins. Familiar, and yet today everything felt slightly tilted, as if the world were shifting into a new chapter before my eyes. You ready? Nina asked. No, I said honestly. But I am going anyway. That, she replied, is why I admire you. When we entered the hospital, I expected the dull fluorescent lighting and antiseptic scent that had accompanied my entire nursing career. Instead, I was escorted to a private preoperative suite, larger, brighter, and more elegant than any room I had ever worked in. Soft lighting, a wall of glass overlooking the snowy courtyard, and equipment arranged with quiet precision. This, of course, was because of the show. Healing Hands had spared no expense. A young woman with a clipboard approached us with a gentle but practiced smile. "Mrs. Hale? My name is Lila. I am one of the producers with Healing Hands. Dr. Voss would like to speak with you before we begin filming your pre-op segments." Filming, the word slid through me with a jolt. My life, my fear, my surgery, was turning into a story for strangers. And yet, somehow, it felt like the first time anyone wanted to listen. Nina squeezed my hand. "I will be right over here. If anyone tries to boss you around, just cough loudly and I will take them down." I smiled, fragile but real. Then the door opened. Dr. Adrian Voss stepped inside, and the room seemed to inhale. I had seen him on television, tall, silver at the temples, strikingly composed, but in person there was something different. Something impossibly calm. His presence radiated confidence without arrogance, warmth without pity. A man accustomed to holding hearts, literally, in his hands. "Mrs. Hale," he said, extending both hands toward mine. "It is a privilege to meet you." A privilege, the word, so rarely directed at women like me, nearly unmoored me. Thank you, I managed. He gestured toward the seating area. "May I sit with you?" We took our seats. Cameramen hovered quietly in the background, adjusting lights. I tried not to stare at the equipment. My heart tripped over itself. Dr. Voss leaned forward slightly. "I read your application." His eyes softened. 40 years serving others. 40 years giving comfort when few gave it back. People like you are the reason I started this program. A lump formed in my throat. "You are not ordinary, Mrs. Hale," he continued. "You are extraordinary in a way the world does not often honor. Today, we hope to change that." No one had spoken to me like that in years. Maybe ever. He pulled up digital scans on a tablet. "Your anatomy makes you a strong candidate for a minimally invasive valve replacement I have been refining for the past 4 years. Instead of the traditional open-heart approach, we can use a small thoracic incision. Your recovery will be significantly easier, weeks shorter." My breath caught. "Why me?" "Because your story matters," he said simply. "And because you have spent decades making sure other people lived. It is time someone gave back to you." The weight of his words pressed gently into my chest, an unfamiliar feeling, like being seen for the first time after years of being background. But there was something else, too. Something unsaid. Dr. Voss's gaze flicked briefly to Nina, then back to me. "Our producer mentioned your son is out of the country." Something inside me winced. "He had commitments," I said quietly. Dr. Voss nodded slowly, compassion threading through his expression. "Whatever the circumstances, please know this, we are here. Today you are surrounded by people who want you to succeed." Tears pushed at the corners of my eyes. I swallowed them down. The next hour moved fast. Blood work, scans, consent forms. Interviews where I spoke about my years in nursing, about raising Caleb alone after my husband died of a sudden aneurysm in the grocery store parking lot. I spoke with practiced neutrality, avoiding bitterness, smoothing the harsh edges of truth. But when they asked about family support, something inside me cracked. "I suppose," I said quietly, "I always thought he would be here." Nina reached over, squeezing my shoulder. The warmth of her hand steadied me. As they placed the 4, as the anesthesiologist explained how the sedation would feel, I thought about Caleb walking cobblestone streets with Lorraine, posting pictures of sunlit piazzas while my chest was about to be opened, metaphorically or literally. I thought about how easily he assumed I would manage alone, and something shifted inside me. Not anger, not yet, but clarity. For 72 years, I had been the dependable one. The invisible backbone. The quiet solution. Now, for the first time, the world would see me, and maybe, just maybe, that included me seeing myself. The nurse placed the anesthesia mask gently over my nose and mouth. "Deep breath, Mrs. Hale," she said. My last thought before the darkness took me was not fear. It was a quiet, unexpected promise. When I wake up, my life will not look like it did before. Not anymore. I surfaced from sedation slowly, like someone swimming upward through layers of warm, heavy water. Beeping sounds reached me first, steady, rhythmic, reassuring. Then the faint hum of voices. Then a hand wrapped tightly around mine. Mags? The voice trembled. Honey, you are back. You are really back. Nina. I blinked, the lights blurring into halos until the room sharpened into focus. The ceiling tiles. The curtain divider. The machines. Nina's face hovering over mine, relief, fury, and exhaustion braided together behind her eyes. You made it, she whispered, brushing hair from my forehead with hands that had once steadied countless patients on the brink. You scared me half to death. My throat felt like sandpaper. Did it go well? Before she could answer, another voice filled the space, deep, calm, unmistakable. It went better than well. Dr. Adrian Voss appeared at my bedside like a figure stepping out of a beam of soft white light. He was no myth, no television illusion, he was flesh and bone, a man whose hands had just rebuilt my heart. Mrs. Hale, he said, smiling, the surgery was a complete success. My exhale came out shaky. We were able to use the minimally invasive technique, he continued, checking my vitals. 3 small incisions. No sternotomy. Your new valve is functioning beautifully. 3 small incisions. I had gone into this expecting to wake with my chest split open like a book. Instead, my ribs were intact. My bones were whole. My life was whole. I tried to speak, but emotion clogged my throat. Dr. Voss pulled a chair beside the bed and lowered himself into it, his posture relaxed but attentive, like I mattered, like this moment was not routine for him. You are going to heal faster than most patients your age, he said. Not because of luck, but because of the way you have lived. People who spend their lives caring for others often underestimate their own strength. Yours carried you through today. My eyes stung. Nina snorted, dabbing her eyes aggressively. She's as stubborn as a mule, that is why she survived. Dr. Voss chuckled. Stubbornness is highly underrated in medicine. It was then I noticed the cameras in the corner, quiet, respectful, capturing the moment without intruding. This was part of the show. My survival was no longer just mine. It belonged to an audience I had never met. I was bracing myself for the weight of that realization when Nina's phone buzzed. Her expression changed instantly. What is it? I croaked. She hesitated, then sighed. It is. Caleb. My heart hiccuped. He called? He has been calling, she said. Many times. His calls went straight to the nurse's station because your phone is with me. The air around me tightened. Dr. Voss watched quietly, his gaze thoughtful. What does he want? I asked. Nina pressed her lips together. To check in. To see if everything went okay. To explain. Explain. The word clawed at something inside my ribcage. Before I could say anything else, Lila, the producer with the luminous smile, entered the room holding a tablet. Mrs. Hale, she said softly, I want to show you something. She tapped the screen. A video played, my preoperative interview from yesterday. Me describing my years in nursing. My voice shaking when I spoke about wanting someone familiar beside me today. The clip had been posted 12 hours earlier. Beneath it were comments, thousands, supportive messages from nurses around the world. Strangers thanking me for the decades I spent saving lives. People sharing their own stories of being abandoned or overlooked in their greatest moments of need. Women writing long paragraphs about aging, motherhood, and the invisibility that creeps in after 50. Then, Nina's eyes widened. There were screenshots from social media. Caleb's post from Florence. A smiling picture of Caleb, his wife's mother Lorraine, and her travel group beneath ancient stone archways. Champagne glasses raised. The caption, making Lorraine's dream come true. Florence sunsets with family. Life is beautiful. The timestamp, 3 hours after I went into surgery. 3 hours after he should have been pacing a hospital hallway waiting for news. My chest tightened, not surgical pain, but a raw emotional sting. Nina muttered a word that would have gotten both of us suspended back in our nursing days. People are furious with him, she said. The internet sleuths figured out who he was. They found the comments on the show's post. They connected the dots. The screen overflowed with angry messages directed at Caleb. How could any son leave his mother during heart surgery? A real family puts their elders first. Your mother is extraordinary. You should be ashamed. My breath caught. Dr. Voss set a hand gently on the railing of my bed. Mrs. Hale, he said quietly. Public reaction can be overwhelming. But please remember, none of this is your fault. I nodded, though the guilt still pressed against me like a weight. I never wanted him to be attacked, I whispered. But you also did not deserve to be abandoned, Nina said firmly. Sometimes consequences just happen to fall where they belong. The nurse entered then, carrying a surprisingly large vase overflowing with lavender and white lilies. These arrived for you, she said. We have quite a few more. How many is quite a few? Nina asked, eyebrow raised. The nurse smiled gently. More than 80. 80.80 bouquets for a woman whose son had not sent even one. Suddenly, everything inside me felt unmoored, grief, relief, disbelief, pride, pain, all swirling together in a way I could not untangle. My voice was small when I finally spoke. What am I supposed to do now? Dr. Voss leaned closer, his expression warm but unflinchingly honest. You focus on healing, he said. You let people support you. And when you are ready, you decide what kind of relationship you want with anyone who did not show up for you today. Nina nodded fiercely at his words. For the first time in a long time, I felt not invisible, but seen, not alone, but held. I looked down at the bandaged incision near my rib. My new heart valve thumped steadily beneath it, echoing a truth that settled deep in my bones. Today, something inside me had been rebuilt, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, and when the time came to face my son, I would no longer be the quiet woman who accepted whatever love was offered to her. I would be someone new, someone whole, someone worth showing up for. Night fell softly outside my hospital window, turning the world a deep shade of navy. Snowflakes drifted across the glass like slow-motion confetti, a quiet celebration of survival. The recovery ward hummed with low voices, distant footsteps, and the rhythmic beep of monitors counting the seconds of my borrowed time. Nina had gone downstairs to grab tea. Dr. Voss had finished his rounds. The cameras had retreated for the evening. I lay in a rare pocket of stillness, the room dim except for a lamp casting gold light over the flowers that now covered every available surface. 80 bouquets had become 109 by nightfall. 109 reminders that strangers cared more about my survival than my own child. I closed my eyes, inhaling the scent of lilies and eucalyptus, letting it mingle with the antiseptic air. My chest tightened, not in fear, but in something vast and complicated. Something like grief wrapped tightly around gratitude. The door clicked open. My pulse stumbled. Caleb stood there. His hair was messy, his travel clothes wrinkled, dark circles hollowing his eyes. He looked like a little boy who had lost his way, not a grown man who had boarded a plane to Florence while his mother was taken into an operating room. Behind him stood Lorraine, perfectly coiffed, stiff-backed, lips pressed into a disapproving line. And behind her, Mia's widower, my son-in-law Daniel, who must have come to support Caleb, though his expression suggested he would rather be anywhere else. Caleb took a trembling step forward. Mom, he whispered. Thank God. Thank God you are okay. I felt nothing. Or perhaps I felt everything at once, too sharp, too raw to sort into separate emotions. You came, I said quietly. His face crumpled. Of course I came. I looked at the clock on the wall. It is almost 9 in the evening. A flush climbed his neck. Our flight landed an hour ago. We came straight here. His voice cracked. Mom, I had no idea it would look so bad online. I had no idea people would. There it was. Not, I am sorry you went through surgery alone. Not, I am sorry I broke my promise. Not, I am sorry my choices hurt you. But I had no idea it would look bad. I folded my hands in my lap, the foreline tugging gently at my skin. Why are you here, Caleb? He blinked rapidly. I am here because you had major surgery. Because I love you. Because, stop. The word came out steadier than I felt. Caleb froze. Lorraine stepped forward, her perfume drifting like cold floral smoke. Margaret, this has all gotten blown out of proportion. A misunderstanding. The internet can be vicious. You need to make a statement clarifying that Caleb is a good son and that there are no hard feelings. Nina, who had slipped back into the room at precisely the wrong moment, nearly dropped her tea. "Oh, I am sorry," she said, voice dangerously sweet. "Are you giving instructions in my friend's hospital room? In the middle of her recovery?" Lorraine bristled. "I am simply saying the family needs to present unity." Nina crossed her arms. "Your definition of unity apparently includes abandoning a 72-year-old woman for gelato and fresco tours." Caleb rubbed his temples. "Please, everyone stop. Mom, I came to talk. Can we, please, talk alone?" I studied his face. My son's face, the boy I had held through nightmares, heartbreaks, schoolyard fights, and his wife Claire's funeral. The baby I had rocked while my own heart cracked under widowhood. The child I had fed, clothed, and supported through decades of sacrifice. I searched his features for remorse, for understanding, for something deeper than embarrassment. I found uncertainty. Shame. A hint of panic but not clarity. Still, this conversation needed to happen. "And it needed to happen now, Nina," I said softly. "Could you give us a few minutes?" Her eyes softened. She squeezed my shoulder. "If you need me, cough twice. I will throw somebody out a window." I almost smiled. The door closed behind her. The room settled. Caleb took the chair beside me. Lorraine and Daniel retreated to the far corner, murmuring between themselves. "Mom," Caleb began, his voice shaky, "I am so sorry. I did not understand how important this was. Dr. Hayes said the surgery was routine. You seemed so strong. You always are." "And Lorraine, stop right there," I said, his mouth closed. "Do not blame Lorraine for a promise you broke." His eyes glistened. "Mom, I just wanted to make her happy. By abandoning your own mother on the most frightening day of her life?" He winced like I had struck him. I thought, his voice was barely a breath. "I thought you did not need me." The words hovered in the air, delicate, devastating, honest in a way that unraveled something deep inside me. "You thought I did not need you," I repeated, letting the truth echo. He nodded, tears gathering. "You have always been the strong one. The steady one. The one who never falls apart. I guess I stopped thinking of you as someone who could break." "Oh, my sweet boy." The tragedy and tenderness of that confession pierced deeper than anger ever could. "Caleb," I said softly, "strength does not mean I do not need love." "I know that now," he whispered. "I swear I know that now." Lorraine stepped forward suddenly. "Margaret, surely you understand he was only trying to—" "No," I said sharply. "This is not your conversation." She froze. For the first time in years, I saw a flicker of something fierce in Caleb's eyes, a quiet defiance directed at her. "Not me, Mom," he said, turning back. "I am begging you, what can I do? How can I fix this?" The question sat between us like fragile glass. Once, I would have told him it was fine. Once, I would have forgiven instantly, smoothed everything over, wrapped myself tightly in silence and self-sacrifice. But I had woken up with a new heart valve, and a new kind of courage. "You do not fix this with words," I said. "You fix it with actions. By choosing to show up. By choosing me. Not because the internet demands it. Not because you want to erase guilt. But because you love me. Not the idea of me, the real me. The mother who raised you. The woman who is still here." Caleb covered his face with both hands. His shoulders trembled. "Mom," he whispered through tears. "I do love you. I want to do better. I will do better." I reached out, resting my hand gently on his. "Then start by listening." He nodded, swallowing a sob. "And Caleb?" He looked up, eyes red-rimmed and young again. "I survived," I said softly. "But I will not survive losing myself again." He did not speak. He did not need to. For the first time in years, he truly heard me, and that, perhaps, was the beginning of something new. The next morning began not with silence, but with footsteps, urgent, rapid, purposeful, just outside my hospital door. Voices murmured, distant and muted, until finally a soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Nina peeked in, hair slightly frazzled and eyes blazing with a mix of pride and disbelief. "Maggie," she said, "brace yourself." "For what?" I murmured, adjusting my pillow. She stepped aside. A producer wheeled in a cart stacked with envelopes, hundreds of them, bound with pastel ribbons. Behind him, 3 nurses followed, each carrying armfuls of flowers, teddy bears, knitted blankets, and handwritten cards. The scent of roses, lavender, and vanilla hand lotion flooded the room. "What is all this?" I breathed. "It is for you," Nina said. "All of it?" "For me?" "Yes, you internet phenomenon, you." Nina smirked proudly. "You have apparently touched the hearts of millions." Millions, the number sat on my tongue like something unbelievable. Lila, the producer, approached with her tablet. "Mrs. Hale, your story reached over 15 million views overnight. You are trending nationwide. People are calling you the Florence Nightingale of our generation." My breath stilled. Nina gasped. "Florence Nightingale?" "Maggie, the woman invented modern nursing." I swallowed hard. "Why?" "I have not done anything special." Lila's eyes softened. "You lived your whole life in service of others. You showed vulnerability. You faced surgery alone. It moved people." My throat tightened. I did not choose to face it alone. "And that," Lila said gently, "is why people care so deeply." She set her tablet on my lap. "There are messages we think you should see." The screen lit with a video montage, nurses from across the country sharing stories, former patients from decades ago remembering moments I had long forgotten, holding hands, offering comfort, fighting for them when no one else did. Their voices overlapped. "You stayed late to help me breathe again. You held my daughter's hand when I could not. You taught me how to be a nurse with compassion. You saved our family." Tears blurred my vision. Nina whispered, "Maggie, you had no idea, did you?" I shook my head. "I never asked for thanks." "That," she said, "is why you are getting it now." Before I could respond, the door opened again. This time, a tall figure entered, the familiar silhouette of Dr. Adrian Voss. His face lit with the kind of satisfaction only seen in surgeons after a successful miracle. "Good morning, Mrs. Hale," he said warmly. Or should I say America's angel nurse? My cheeks flushed. "Please do not call me that." "It is not me," he chuckled. "It is the nation. They are captivated by your courage." Courage, such a big word for someone who had simply survived. Dr. Voss took a seat beside me. "We also received calls from network executives. They want to expand your episode. More interviews. More of your story. They believe there is something universally powerful about the way you live, love, and endure." "I do not want to exploit what happened," I said quietly. "You are not exploiting anything," he replied gently. "You are giving people hope. You survived a major procedure with grace, honesty, and dignity. The world needs more stories like that." Nina nodded fiercely. "Do it, Maggie. Let the world see who you really are." I hesitated. "But..." "Caleb," Dr. Voss's expression shifted, warm but firm. "Your son's choices are his. The world's admiration is yours." A knock sounded again. I groaned. "If that is more flowers, we are going to have to rent a storage unit." But it was not flowers. It was the hospital chaplain, Sister Anya, holding a thick white envelope. "This arrived for you," she said. It came with a personal courier. I frowned. "A courier?" "Yes. The seal is from the presidential office." My breath caught. "The what?" Nina shrieked. "The presidential office," Sister Anya repeated with a serene smile. "The staff requests a conversation regarding an upcoming ceremony honoring national healthcare heroes." Nina collapsed dramatically into the visitor's chair. "Maggie. Margaret Hale. Did the president just invite you to the White House?" I stared at the envelope like it might burst into flames. Dr. Voss chuckled softly. "Do not faint, Mrs. Hale. Your heart is new but not that new." I do not understand," I whispered. "You do not have to," he said. Just accept what you have earned. The room buzzed with energy, nurses whispering, producers filming, Nina fanning herself like a southern belle in shock. Meanwhile, inside my chest, my newly repaired heart thumped steadily, as if urging me to believe this impossible moment. The show was becoming bigger than my surgery, bigger than me, and then the door swung open yet again. Mom. Caleb, his voice cracked. His face was pale, his eyes red from exhaustion and crying. He stepped in slowly, cautiously, like a man approaching a cliff's edge. I need to talk to you, he said. Nina straightened. I will go wait outside. But if he makes you upset, call me. Loudly. Dr. Voss followed her with a nod, pausing long enough to look Caleb in the eye, calm, not unkind, but unyielding. Your mother is an exceptional woman, he told him. I suggest you treat her accordingly. When the door closed behind them, silence settled like dust. Caleb approached my bed. Mom, he whispered, I saw the news. All of it. The videos. The comments. The awards. The president. And his voice trembled. I did not know. I did not know how much you mattered to so many people. A knot tightened in my throat. I guess, he said brokenly, I forgot that you were more than just my mother. A tear slid down my cheek. Caleb, I said softly, I never wanted you to see me through the world's eyes. I wanted you to see me through your own. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. I know. And I failed you. My chest clenched, not from surgery pain, but from the ache of a wound that had been bleeding long before any scalpel touched me. I am sorry, he whispered. I took a long breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle. Caleb, I said gently, this apology is the beginning, not the end. We will heal from this. But only if you want to do the work. He nodded rapidly. I do. I swear I do. And Caleb? Yes? I will not let myself be forgotten again. He looked at me with something new in his eyes, recognition, the kind a child gives their parent the first time they see them as a person. A whole person, and in that moment, as tears gathered in my son's eyes and the machines hummed steadily beside me, I realized my heart had been repaired, but something far more important had been reborn. The following days passed in a kind of shimmering unreality, like living in a snow globe someone kept gently shaking. The world outside buzzed with headlines and hashtags, interviews and invitations, while inside my hospital room the quiet rhythms of healing continued. Heartbeat. Breath. Memory. Hope. By the fourth morning post-surgery, my strength had returned enough for the nurses to help me walk the hallway. That small victory, lifting myself from the bed, planting my feet on the cold tile, letting my new valve guide me forward, felt like a triumph carved into bone. Nina hovered protectively the entire time like a bodyguard disguised as a retired nurse. You walk slow, she said. You breathe steady. And if anyone from the show tries to film you wobbling, I will sweat the camera out of their hands. You are terrifying, I murmured. You are welcome, she replied proudly. When we returned to my room, something unexpected happened. The last person I wanted to see stood there. Lorraine, not Caleb. Not Daniel. Not any producer or nurse, just Lorraine. Her hands were clenched around the strap of her designer purse. Her hair was perfectly styled, but something about her posture, rigid, uncertain, almost small, made her suddenly look older than her 65 years. Nina bristled instantly. What do you want? Please, Lorraine said quietly. Just, let me speak with her. Nina turned to me. Do you want her here? I took a breath, searching myself for anger. Surprisingly, there was none. Only curiosity. And a strange, unfamiliar sense of power. It is fine, I told Nina gently. Give us a minute. She narrowed her eyes. I will be right outside this door. If she says one unkind thing, I will drag her down the hallway by her earrings. Lorraine's eyes widened slightly when Nina left and closed the door. The silence grew thick. Lorraine stared at the floor for a long moment before finally lifting her gaze. Maggie, she said softly, I owe you an apology. The words startled me. I had expected excuses. Justifications. Defensive rambling. But not this. I realized, she continued, voice trembling slightly, that I have spent years treating you as if we were competing for Caleb's loyalty. And I made choices, terrible choices, without considering how they affected you. I didn't speak. I wasn't ready to help her through this confession. Not this time. She took a slow breath. I convinced myself you were too independent. Too capable. That you didn't need him the way I needed him. Her fingers twisted around the purse strap. I told myself that my loneliness mattered more. That you had already lived your life, and I was the one drowning. A sting of empathy pricked me unexpectedly. Loneliness does terrible things to people, twisting logic, warping morality, shrinking kindness into something selfish and brittle. But empathy wasn't the same as forgiveness, I thought. Lorraine whispered that if I kept Caleb close, if I made myself indispensable, I would have a place in his future. And maybe I feared you still had a place in it I could never fill. I blinked, feared. That was not a word I ever expected to hear from a woman who treated life as a chessboard and everyone else as movable pieces. She sighed, shoulders collapsing slightly. When Caleb's wife, your daughter, died, I should have supported you as much as I supported him. But instead, I felt threatened by your grief. It mirrored mine. And I didn't want to see myself in you. Suddenly, the room felt smaller. Warmer. More human. Still, I remained silent. He told me everything, she continued. Everything he said to you yesterday. Everything you said back. And Maggie, her voice cracked. He was right. You deserved better. So much better. My heart softened despite itself. Maybe because these words didn't feel rehearsed. Maybe because Lorraine never showed vulnerability unless something inside her was breaking open. Or maybe because, for the first time, she was finally seeing me, not as an obstacle, but as a person. I am in therapy now, she said, surprising me. Real therapy. Twice a week. My counselor says I use controlling behavior to avoid facing my own fear of aging alone. And she says I owe you an apology for the pain I caused. I raised an eyebrow. Your therapist told you to apologize? She shook her head. No. She said I needed to repair the relationships I have damaged. And this is the one I damaged the most. I exhaled slowly. Lorraine, I said softly, choosing each word with care, you hurt me. Deeply. But I appreciate you coming here. Her shoulders sagged with relief. I do not expect forgiveness, she said. I only hope that someday, you might allow me to be part of your life in a healthier way. I hesitated. Forgiveness wasn't a switch you flipped. It was a road you walked. Slowly. Carefully. With boundaries. But maybe, just maybe, something had shifted. We will see, I said gently. Let us both heal first. She nodded, tears glistening. When she turned to leave, her movements were quieter, smaller, less sharp. As she stepped out of the room, I realized I felt lighter. Nina burst back in less than 2 seconds later. Did she cry? Did she apologize? Did she try to blame you? Should I trip her in the hallway? I laughed, a soft, surprised laugh that felt good in my recovering chest. She apologized, I said. Honestly. Nina blinked. Is she dying? No, I said. Just healing. Huh, Nina muttered. I guess miracles really do happen. Before I could respond, Lila re-entered with her ever-present clipboard. Mrs. Hale, she said, there is someone waiting outside. He says he traveled from the East Coast to see you. Nina gasped. Do not tell me. A tall man stepped inside, handsome in a weathered, distinguished way. Salt and pepper hair. Warm brown eyes, and a bouquet of white peonies. He smiled gently. Mrs. Hale? My name is Dr. Samuel Reed. I wrote to you about dinner, medical history discussions, and, well, excellent baked salmon. My breath caught. Oh my God, Nina whispered. It is Mr. East Coast Salmon Man. He chuckled, stepping nearer. I saw the news coverage. And I realized life is short. I did not want to wait another day to meet the woman who moved the entire country. My cheeks warmed. He handed me the bouquet. His fingers brushed mine, warm, steady. deliberate. It had been years since someone looked at me like that, not as a patient, not as a mother, but as a woman. A woman worth showing up for. Would you, he said softly, allow me to sit with you a while? I nodded slowly. I would like that. And as he sat beside me, my new heart valve beating strong and sure beneath my ribs, I realized something profound. My life wasn't just being repaired, it was beginning. The snow had stopped falling by the time Caleb returned to the hospital the next evening. Outside my room, the hallway lights hummed softly, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Nurses wheeled carts past with quiet efficiency, their sneakers whispering across the tile. Inside, the room glowed with warm lamplight. I had been propped comfortably against pillows, watching the muted news coverage of my own story, images of flowers being delivered, clips from healing hands, strangers holding signs that said "We love you, Nurse Hale." It did not feel like my life. It felt like someone else's movie. Then the door creaked open. Caleb stood there, just Caleb. No Lorraine. No Daniel. No entourage. No excuses. He looked smaller than I remembered, as if remorse had carved pieces out of him. His duffel bag hung from his shoulder, suggesting he had packed in a rush. His eyes were red, as though he had spent the day inside them, searching for courage. Mom, he said softly. Can I come in? I nodded. Of course. He closed the door gently behind him, as though afraid the slightest sound might shatter whatever fragile bridge he hoped to build. When he moved toward me, his steps were hesitant, measured in guilt rather than distance. He took the chair beside the bed, folding his hands, staring at them for a long moment. I watched every interview, he whispered. Every clip. Every comment. I watched them talk about you like you saved the world. He swallowed, emotion tightening his throat. And I realized, you did. Just not mine. Not recently. I stayed quiet, letting him unravel the truth on his own terms. He exhaled shakily. Mom. I need you to be honest with me. And I need to hear the truth even if it hurts. His eyes lifted to mine, tired, desperate, open. Do you think I am a good person? The question landed in the room like a fragile glass ornament, beautiful, breakable, dangerous to touch. I took a breath. I think, I said slowly, you are a good person who has been making very careless choices. He nodded as though he expected nothing less. I deserve that. You deserve honesty, I corrected. He blinked back fresh tears. When did I start treating you like an obligation instead of someone I love? There it was, the real wound, the real question. I folded my hands in my lap. I think it happened slowly, I said. Not one moment. Many small ones. He listened intently. When Claire died, I continued gently, you were drowning in grief. And Lorraine grabbed your hand and pulled you closer. I understood that. She lost a daughter. You lost a wife. Your pain overlapped. He nodded, guilt flickering in his eyes. But then, I said, instead of clinging to both of us, you clung only to her. And somewhere along the way, I slipped into the background. Caleb closed his eyes. Mom. I never meant, I know, I said softly. I know you did not mean to hurt me. But I did, he whispered. Yes, I said gently. You did. He wiped his eyes with the heel of his palm. I thought you would always be there. No matter what. That you did not need anything from me. That you were made of iron. I am made of flesh, Caleb. And it bruises. He winced. Hard silence settled, thick, aching, honest. Then, very softly, Caleb asked, why, didn't you tell me about the show? About Dr. Voss? About being chosen? The truth stung even as I spoke it. Because I did not want to be a burden. He flinched like I had struck him. You could never be a burden. I was to you, I said, calm but direct. Or at least, I felt as though I was. He shook his head vigorously. No. No. Mom, you were the one person I relied on for everything. Everything I have ever become is because of you. And yet, I whispered, you left me alone on the day my heart could have stopped beating. Pain flickered in his expression, deep, raw, human. I know, he said hoarsely. And I hate myself for it. I reached for his hand, not to comfort him, but to ground us both. His fingers curled around mine like a lifeline. Caleb, I said quietly, hating yourself won't help either of us heal. What matters is who you choose to be next. He lifted his gaze, tears slipping freely now. I want to be better. I want to be the son you deserve. I do not know how to start. I squeezed his hand. You start, I said, by showing up. Not when it is easy. Not when it is public. Not when you want to avoid guilt. But every week. Every month. Whenever life gets messy or inconvenient. He nodded. I can do that. And you start by listening instead of assuming. Asking instead of guessing. Caring instead of postponing. I can do all of that, he said quickly. And Caleb? Yes? You stop treating me like a backup plan. He inhaled shakily. I promise. I promise on everything I have left. I studied his face. Not his words, but the man beneath them, the boy I raised, the man he became, the man he still could be. He meant it, for the first time in years, he really meant it. He wiped his tears again. Mom. I want to take care of you now. I want to help you with bills, appointments, groceries, whatever you need. I shook my head gently. Caleb, I do not need you to take care of me. He looked startled. Then what do you need? I need you to value me, I said softly. Not rely on me. Not assume I am fine. Not treat me like a shadow in your life. He swallowed hard. I want you, I continued, because I love you. Not because I need something from you. That is the difference between burden and bond. His face crumpled again. Mom, he whispered, I do not deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, I said. But forgiveness is not something you deserve. It is something you earn. And, can I earn it? His voice trembled like a child asking if monsters under the bed could be chased away. Yes, I said. But not in a day. Not in a speech. In time. In consistency. He nodded slowly. I will do whatever it takes. I smiled softly. Not forgiveness, but possibility. There is one more thing, he said suddenly. What is it? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a crumpled envelope. I wrote this on the plane. I do not know if it is good. I just needed to say what I could not say out loud. I took the envelope carefully. I will read it, I promised. And Mom? Caleb's voice was nearly a whisper. Yes? Please do not give up on me. I touched his cheek gently. I am not giving up on you. I am giving you a chance. He exhaled in relief, tears slipping again, but for the first time, they were not tears of shame, they were tears of hope. And as he leaned forward to hug me, carefully, gently, as though I were made of something precious, I felt my new heart beating stronger than ever, because sometimes miracles do not happen in operating rooms, sometimes they happen in conversations we waited a lifetime to have. 3 weeks after my surgery, my life no longer resembled anything I recognized. It was as if someone had torn open the sky and poured in a new world, one filled with cameras, interviews, flowers, invitations, messages, and attention so overwhelming that sometimes I had to sit quietly just to remember how to breathe. The day I was discharged, sunlight glinted across the snow as Nina pulled her car into the hospital's pickup zone. Camera crews lined the sidewalk, bundled in scarves, their breath fogging the winter air as they waited to capture America's heart warrior, a phrase that still made me snort. Nina muttered, "Do not look at them. Do not wave. And if anyone tries to interview you without permission, I will flatten them." I smiled. You cannot flatten news reporters. Watch me, she said, cracking her knuckles. As she helped me into the wheelchair, hospital protocol, the crowd erupted in gentle applause. Applause. For me. A 72-year-old retired nurse with 3 small incisions beneath her ribcage and a heart stitched into renewed rhythm. People held signs, "We love you, Margaret. Nurses save the world. Heroism is quiet until heard." The child held a drawing of a smiling nurse surrounded by hearts. His mother whispered, "You inspired him." Tears pricked my eyes. When we reached the curb, a reporter called out, "Mrs. Hale, what is next for you?" I opened my mouth to answer, but Nina clamped her hand on my arm. "Say something inspirational," she whispered. "But short." I inhaled the crisp, cold air. "What is next," I said loudly, "is living. And choosing to be loved, properly." The crowd cheered. Nina blinked. Damn. That was good. Caleb met us at my apartment, standing beside the door with a bag of groceries and an expression hovering between nervous hope and earnest determination. Behind him, the hallway smelled of fresh pine, the unmistakable scent of someone scrubbing obsessively. "Mom," he said, opening the door, "welcome home." My breath caught. He had cleaned everything. The living room sparkled, fresh flowers stood in vases, blankets were washed and folded. A small reading nook had been set up beside the window overlooking the courtyard, my armchair flanked by soft lamps, warm throws, and a stack of books. "You did all this?" I whispered. "Me and someone who wanted to help," he said, awkwardly rubbing the back of his neck. Then another voice spoke from the kitchen. "I hope you like salmon." Dr. Samuel Reed stepped into view, wearing an apron and holding a casserole dish. I blinked. "You cooked?" He smiled, that quiet, confident smile that made my pulse skip. "You survived the hardest part. Dinner is the least I can do." Nina, sliding in behind us, fanned herself dramatically. "If you do not marry that man, I will." "Stop it," I muttered, cheeks warming. During dinner, Samuel told stories from his years as a cardiac surgeon on the East Coast, weaving humor into tragedy with the kind of grace only someone familiar with life's fragility could manage. Caleb listened with rapt attention. Nina laughed so loudly the neighbors probably considered calling security. And me? I felt my life expanding, not returning to what it had been, expanding. This was new, this was mine. Days passed, pressure did not ease. It grew every morning. My phone buzzed with new messages, invitations from talk shows, requests for interviews, letters asking for advice, people seeking comfort, people offering comfort. Then came the call. I was sitting in my armchair, sunlight spilling warm across my hands, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mrs. Hale," a bright voice said. "This is Camille from the Office of Public Engagement. The President would like to personally invite you to the national ceremony for exemplary healthcare service." I froze. "The President?" "Yes, ma'am. The President watched your Healing Hands episode and was deeply moved by your story." Nina, sitting beside me knitting something violently pink, nearly stabbed herself with a needle. "What did she just say?" she mouthed. The voice continued. "The President would like to present you with the National Heart of Service Medal. The ceremony will be broadcast nationwide. We will arrange transportation and accommodations, of course." I sank deeper into my chair, gripping the armrest. I do not know what to say." "You can say yes," Nina hissed beside me. "Say yes." My voice trembled. "Yes. I would be honored." "Wonderful. We will send over details shortly." When I hung up, Nina threw her arms around me and shook me lightly. "You are going to the White House. Do you know how big that is?" I laughed, half disbelief, half fear. "What if I faint? Or trip? Or say something ridiculous?" "If you faint," she said, "you will faint with dignity because you are a national symbol of resilience." I covered my face with both hands. This cannot be real. But it was. News outlets exploded with headlines. "Heart Warrior invited to White House. 72-year-old nurse to receive National Honor. Nurse Hale, the woman who showed America how to love our elders." The messages became overwhelming. Dozens of them. Hundreds. By the third day, thousands. "You need a communications manager," Nina said, scrolling through my phone. "No, I do not." "Yes," Caleb interjected from the doorway, "you do." He stepped in holding a notebook. "Mom, all these people want something from you. Interviews. Speeches. Partnerships. A book deal. A documentary. You need someone you trust to help you manage this." My eyebrows lifted. "And who do you suggest?" He took a breath. "Me." Nina's eyebrow arched so high it nearly reached her hairline. "I want to help," Caleb continued. "Not because I feel guilty. Not because of what happened. But because I want to earn a place in your life again. And because you deserve support. My chest ached, not from surgery, but from something warm unfurling beneath my ribs. I nodded slowly. All right. But this time, Caleb, we work as partners. Not parent and child. Not obligation and caretaker. He smiled, shy, relieved, hopeful. Partners. The night before our trip to Washington, Samuel stopped by with a small velvet box. He placed it in my hand gently, as though it contained something delicate. What is this? I asked. Open it, he said softly. Inside was a delicate silver necklace holding a heart-shaped pendant, not flashy, not extravagant. Simple. Elegant. Beautiful. It is not a romantic gesture, he added quickly. Not yet, anyway. I looked up, surprised. He went on, it is a symbol. Of your strength. Of everything you survived. And of everything you are becoming. Emotion thickened my throat. Samuel. You owe me nothing, he said gently. Just wear it tomorrow. Let it remind you that your heart belongs to you first. I closed the box slowly, my hands trembling. Thank you, I whispered, and as he left that evening, with a soft kiss to my knuckles, I realized something astonishing. My new heart wasn't just beating. It was awakening. To love. To possibility. To a life I had never dared dream. Tomorrow, I would stand in the halls of the White House, but tonight, I stood in the first moments of the rest of my life. The White House glimmered like a dream carved out of marble and history. As the black car rolled through the gates, its tires crunching over winter gravel, I felt something inside my chest expand, a sensation I could only describe as awe-stitched with disbelief. The moment my foot touched the ground, a warm breeze swept through the courtyard, carrying the scent of freshly trimmed evergreen and something faintly citrus from nearby planters. Snowflakes floated lazily around us like tiny blessings. Caleb stepped out beside me, adjusting my coat collar the way he used to adjust his children's before school. You ready? He asked, voice tender, steady, as ready as anyone can be, I murmured, clutching the silver heart pendant Samuel had given me. Nina emerged from the other side of the car wearing her fanciest coat, bright crimson, and a determined expression that suggested she would tackle the Secret Service if they tried to keep her out. This is it, she whispered. The biggest moment of your life. The world is watching. For once, that truth did not scare me. Inside the East Wing, everything gleamed. Portraits of first ladies lined the walls, their painted eyes following us with a quiet, timeless dignity. Staff members guided us through hallways draped with garlands and white roses, their smiles warm, respectful. A young aide approached. Mrs. Hale, the president will meet with you privately before the ceremony. I swallowed hard. Privately? Yes, she said. She wanted to speak with you woman to woman, from one leader in service to another. One leader in service. The words wrapped around my heart like silk. The Oval Office felt smaller than I had imagined, intimate, sunlit, calm. The president rose from behind her desk the moment I entered, her smile warm and genuine. Mrs. Hale, she said, extending both hands, I am honored. I nearly forgot how to breathe. Madam President, I whispered, the honor is mine. She guided me to a pair of chairs near the fireplace. The room smelled faintly of lemon polish and cedar logs. I watched your Healing Hands episode twice, she confessed with a soft laugh. Your courage, your story, it moved me deeply. You showed the nation what integrity looks like. My breath hitched. I only did what I had to do to survive. No, she said gently. You did more. You survived with dignity. And you showed people that elders deserve better than the neglect they often receive. You changed hearts, Mrs. Hale. That is why you are here. A wave of emotion swelled in my chest. Pride, grief, gratitude, colliding all at once. When our meeting ended, she squeezed my hands again. Today, you remind America how powerful the quiet heroes among us truly are. I walked out of the Oval Office feeling 10 years younger. The ceremony was held in the Rose Garden, its winter version glimmering with frost, the bushes dusted with silver like nature had decorated them just for the occasion. A small stage stood at the center. Cameras from every major network pointed toward it. When the president introduced me, her voice echoed through speakers and into the cold, crisp air. Margaret Hale represents the strength of our healthcare workers, the grace of our elders, and the power of compassion. Today, we honor her with the National Heart of Service Medal. As I stepped onto the stage, applause surged, warm and thunderous. My heart stumbled in its new rhythm, overwhelmed but steady. Standing at the podium, I searched the crowd. I saw Nina in the front row, proud as a lioness. I saw Caleb, his hands clasped, his eyes glistening. I saw Samuel, tall, composed, smiling softly beneath the winter sun. I inhaled deeply. When I woke up the morning of my surgery, I thought it would be the worst day of my life. Silence blanketed the garden, but sometimes life surprises us. Sometimes the moments that break us also open the door to everything we were meant to become. I felt tears slip down my cheeks, but they were warm, not bitter. I stand here today not because I am extraordinary, I continued, but because I finally learned to value myself the way I have valued everyone else my entire life. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I learned that love should not be earned through sacrifice alone. It should be mutual. It should be kind. It should be present. I saw Caleb bow his head, shoulders trembling, and I learned that it is never too late to demand better. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. But with truth. The applause rose again, gentle, affirming, like a wave washing toward me. When the president placed the medal around my neck, its weight pressed against my heart, not heavy, but grounding, real, undeniable. Mine. That night, our flight back to Seattle hummed through the sky like a soft lullaby. I leaned back in my seat, watching the clouds drift by beneath us, the world a quilt of silver and shadow. Caleb sat beside me, hands folded, silent for a long time before finally speaking. "Mom," he whispered, "I have something I need to ask you." I turned to him. He took a trembling breath. "Can I be in your life the way you deserve? Consistently. Honestly. Without excuses." I touched his hand, my voice gentle. "You already are. You just need to keep showing up." He nodded, tears silently falling. "I will. I swear I will." I squeezed his hand. "And I believe you." He exhaled shakily, relief washing through him. After a while, he asked, "Mom, why did you forgive me?" I thought carefully before answering. "Because you came back," I said. "And because you finally saw me." He leaned his head on my shoulder, just like he used to as a child when storms frightened him. I rested my cheek against his hair, letting my newly repaired heart beat steadily beneath my ribs. Forgiveness was not forgetting. Forgiveness was choosing to live forward. And tonight, flying through the quiet dark over the sleeping world, I felt something I had once feared I would never feel again: peace. When the plane touched down, Samuel was waiting at the gate, holding a small bouquet of daffodils and wearing the expression of a man who had counted the minutes until he could see me. Nina elbowed me, whispering, "If you do not marry him, I will." I swatted her lightly. Samuel stepped forward, offering the flowers. "Welcome home, Margaret." "Thank you," I whispered. He held my gaze, steady, warm, patient. "Ready for what comes next?" I touched the medal resting against my chest. For the first time in a long time, I said, "I am." Sometimes the miracle you wait your whole life to receive isn't a surgery, or a rescue, or a person, but the moment you finally choose yourself with unwavering, unapologetic clarity. 1 year after the White House ceremony, I stood in the marble foyer of the Hale Center for Compassionate Care, a building that should not have existed and yet rose proudly before me, 5 stories tall, filled with classrooms, counseling rooms, family support spaces, and a simulation lab that echoed with the voices of young nurses learning how to save lives with tenderness and skill. My name gleamed in bronze across the main entrance. Margaret Hale Institute for Compassionate Care. I touched the plaque with trembling fingers. It felt unreal. As if the girl who had grown up folding thrift store clothes, the widow who worked double shifts to afford bills, the mother who ate leftovers so her son could have seconds, could never have imagined a building bearing her name. But then again, everything in my life for the past 18 months had felt like borrowed magic. "Maggie," Nina said, striding toward me in a navy pantsuit that made her look like she ran the entire state of Washington. "You need to get backstage. The place is full." News crews, donors, medical schools, this is bigger than anything we have handled before. I still cannot believe people came, I said. She snorted. You healed a nation with your honesty. Of course they came. Across the foyer, Samuel waited in a crisp charcoal suit, holding 2 envelopes, one for the keynote notes I barely needed, and one that held something far more personal. He pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek when I reached him. Ready? I think so, I whispered, but the truth was, I felt almost overwhelmed. Not by the crowd, not by the camera crews, not even by the speeches ahead. What overwhelmed me was the quiet realization that a woman who had once woken up to a letter of abandonment now stood at the center of a legacy that would outlive her mom. Caleb's voice called from behind. He jogged up to me, his tie slightly crooked, cheeks flushed from excitement. The auditorium is full. Riley and the kids are in the front row. They made signs that say, Grandma Maggie saves hearts. I laughed softly. I cannot wait to see them. Caleb's expression softened. Mom. I am proud of you. Every single day. I squeezed his hand. And I am proud of who you are becoming. A stagehand appeared. Mrs. Hale? We are ready for you. My heart steadied. This was not the moment I had been waiting for, this was the moment I had been becoming. The auditorium glowed with warm lights and hundreds of faces, students, doctors, nurses, families, administrators, donors, and strangers whose lives had brushed against mine through a television screen. They rose when I stepped on stage, applause rolling through the room like ocean waves. I placed my hand over the silver heart pendant Samuel had given me. It had never left my neck. Thank you, I began, letting the room settle. 1 year ago, I stood in the White House and accepted the National Heart of Service Medal. But the real honor is being here today. I could feel the air shift as the audience leaned in. When I had heart surgery, I believed my life was about to shrink. I thought surviving meant returning to the smallness I had learned to accept. Instead, my heart opened, to truth, to pain, to possibility. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. I want to tell you something I learned the hard way, I continued. It is possible to spend a lifetime being needed, without ever being valued. Caleb wiped his eyes. It is possible to love so fiercely that you forget to ask whether that love is returned with the same sincerity. Heads nodded across the rows. It is possible, I said softly, to give so much that you disappear inside your own generosity. Silence blanketed the room. But here is the truth I want you to carry home today. You are allowed to want more, you are allowed to be more, and you are allowed to demand the kind of love that lifts you instead of draining you. A tear slid down my cheek, but it was full of warmth rather than sorrow. This institute exists because I finally chose myself. Because I finally said, my life matters. My voice matters. My heart matters. And I want everyone who walks through these doors, students, families, nurses, elders, to feel the same truth in their bones. The room erupted with applause. I raised a hand gently, and the crowd quieted once more. If you are watching this, I continued, speaking now to more than the room, to every person who would later see the broadcast online, and you are someone who always puts others first, someone who keeps your pain quiet so others can be loud. Someone who gives love without asking for any in return. I let the moment breathe. Then hear me clearly. You deserve reciprocity, you deserve rest, you deserve joy that is not borrowed but earned. You deserve a life that reflects your worth. Somewhere in the crowd, someone sobbed quietly. Somewhere else, someone clasped a loved one's hand. I smiled. And if you have struggled to believe that, I said gently, let my story be your permission to begin. The room rose to its feet, every row, every seat, every heart. After the ceremony, the crowd spilled into the lobby, laughter and camera flashes filling the air. The building felt alive, full of hope, full of purpose, full of people ready to rewrite their own stories. Samuel slipped an arm around my waist. You just changed 1,000 lives. Not alone, I said, leaning into him. Never alone again. The doors opened behind us, and the cold winter air swept in along with Caleb's 2 children rushing toward me, both yelling, Grandma Maggie. When they wrapped their arms around my legs, something inside me softened completely. Love, this time, did not drain me. It filled me. Nina approached with a glass of sparkling cider. You did it, sweetheart. You really did it. I looked around, the institute, the students, the families, the lights, the legacy, and realized something profound. I had not just survived, I had transformed. I had become the version of myself I always deserved to be, and now I wanted to help others do the same. I turned toward a nearby camera crew capturing behind-the-scenes footage for the institute's online launch. Taking the microphone, I smiled warmly. For everyone watching, I said, "Thank you for walking through this with me. If my story has helped you see your own worth a little more clearly, then every scar, every tear, every moment was worth it." I leaned closer, and if you want more stories of healing, courage, and starting over, subscribe to our channel. Not for me. For you. For the reminder that it is never too late to begin again. I paused, letting the words settle. "You deserve a life that honors you," I whispered. "Let us learn how to build it, together." The camera's red light blinked off, and in that moment, surrounded by love, legacy, and hope, I felt it fully, the miracle of choosing myself. At last.